Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar featuring fraternity and sorority life here at George Mason. My name is Caitlin Euler, and I'm the Assistant Director of Family Programs and Services here at George Mason University. Our webinar today is part of our monthly series of webinars, which will be taking place this fall. And our webinar series is designed to highlight topics and resources that we feel are important for our Mason families. A full listing of our webinar topics for the fall can be found on our website, which is masonfamily.gmu.edu. So before I turn it over to our presenter, I also wanted to mention that a recording of this webinar will be available on our website after the webinar today, so you all will be able to go back and access this information at any time. During our webinar, we invite you all to use the chat feature, which is on the bottom left of the screen, if you have any questions. We do have a staff member here, an additional staff member from Fraternity and Sorority Life, who will be responding to your questions throughout the webinar, and we will also open it up for questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to our presenter, Alan White, who is the Assistant Director for Fraternity and Sorority Life in the Office of Student Involvement.
Thank you, Caitlin, for that introduction, and I just once again want to thank you all for joining us as a part of our Fraternity and Sorority Life webinar. Again, my name is Alan White, and I am the Assistant Director of Student Involvement for Fraternity and Sorority Life. We are so excited to be able to offer this experience to each of you, as this has never been offered before, and I will spend some time going through a number of topics that I will tell you all about shortly, but I want to encourage you all to please ask questions if there are any specific things you would like me to cover or provide more clarity on. So please do not hesitate to ask. We realize some of you may be Greek or may have never even heard about fraternities and sororities. Myself was a first-generation student, and so the concept was quite foreign to my parents. So again, feel free to ask questions, and we'll also make sure to address questions at the end of each slide, just in case you want to address any topics that I may have covered just then. So we'll go ahead and start. Okay, so today we'll be covering the following topics. We will start with a review of fraternal history, so you will hear a little bit about how and why they were formed. Then we will talk more about our Greek system here at Mason and what it has to offer. Next, we will cover the process by which students join our fraternal groups, and then cover how you can be more involved in your son or daughter's Greek experience. Lastly, we will cover how we handle risk and also provide you with some useful links and contacts. So what is a fraternity or sorority? A fraternity is a group of men or women bound together by friendship, brotherhood, or sisterhood, and common goals and aspirations. Some of you may have had a daughter who recently joined one of our Panhellenic groups and may have noticed that although the group is only for women, it is referred to as a fraternity. Many women's groups were founded before the term sorority was coined, but more often than not, women's fraternities are most often referred to as sororities. So, when and why did these organizations start? Fraternal organizations date as far back as the late 1700s with the creation of Phi Beta Kappa, which is an academic honor society. The collegiate style fraternity that we know today really didn't come into effect until the early 1800s. Later in the 1800s, we saw women's groups form under societies that would later be what are now our women's fraternities and sororities. Then we had the emergence of Black Greek letter organizations in the early 1900s, followed by culturally based Greek letter organizations ranging from Latino and Latina groups to Asian and Native American groups. Many of these groups were founded because the men or women who founded them had similar interests and wanted to discuss topics that were of importance to them. They often met in secret, as these kinds of congregations were not allowed in that day and age, which is why the secrets were developed. Below are a few links to each of the governing bodies or umbrella groups that each of our organizations fall under. They provide oversight and also encourage collaboration between its members groups in hopes of strengthening each of our groups and advancing the fraternal movement. These links also usually have some useful information for parents, such as the NPC-sponsored site sororityparents.com, where it features blogs by sorority women's parents on a number of different topics. The first link I have there is NALFO, and that is our Latino groups, and that basically is the governing body that works with each of those groups. Then we have the North American Interfraternity Conference, which is nicind.org, which governs all of our fraternal groups. And then we have npcwomen.org, which is our National Panhellenic Conference, which governs our 6 women's sororities here that are comprised within our Panhellenic Council. And then we have nphchq.org, which is for the National Panhellenic Council, which are all of our traditionally African American fraternities and sororities. So, what are the benefits of joining a fraternity or sorority? The young men and women that form these groups share their friendship, efforts, and knowledge. Their common experiences build ties that last a lifetime. And though there are many different fraternities and sororities, they all share common founding principles that are of interest to any college man or woman. Their goal is to enhance your students' educational experience by emphasizing intellectual, interpersonal, and social development. The ideals of lifelong friendship, sound education, campus and community service, and social interaction are what the members strive to live by every day as well. They also gain access to a network of brothers and sisters that extends nationwide and even for some worldwide. They will get access to internships and other opportunities that will enhance their lives both as a collegian and as a graduate. And in speaking of graduates, one of the greatest benefits is that our students are retained and persist towards graduation at a higher percentage than those who are not a part of our groups. This has been shown by study after study, and we believe it's because they have a greater sense of belonging, more of a connection to the university, and built-in a support system of brothers and sisters who want to see them succeed. So to tell you a little bit more about Mason Greek life here, our Greeks have been a part of Mason history and tradition since Mason has been Mason. Our first groups colonized in 1970, beginning with 2 fraternities and 1 sorority. We obviously have grown significantly as an institution, and as a result, our Greek community has grown and thrived as well. We now offer 35 different fraternities and sororities, which breaks down to 14 sororities with a total of around 678 members, and 21 fraternities with a total of about 634 members. This brings us to about 7.3% of the full-time undergraduate population. And although 7.3% may not seem like a lot, our students are highly involved and participating in a number of activities and leadership roles here at Mason. We recently have begun the process of bringing on a new sorority in the fall of 2013 within our Panhellenic community, and also opened our doors to 2 organizations this past spring within our Multicultural Greek Council. We are excited about our growth and look forward to advancing this community even more. So here we have listed our 35 fraternities and sororities. They are structured within governing councils that provide oversight and guidance to the respective chapters. The governing council is comprised of an elected group of students who have been selected based on their leadership experience and skills. These young men and women meet weekly to discuss topics of interest and also to make plans for their respective communities. The first column you will see there is the IFC, which stands for our Interfraternity Council. And they have 14 different chapters that are within that council. We have Alpha Epsilon Pi, Alpha Kappa Lambda, Chi Psi, Delta Chi, Kappa Alpha Order, Kappa Sigma, Phi Kappa Sigma, Phi Kappa Theta, Phi Sigma Kappa, Pi Kappa Alpha, Pi Kappa Phi, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Tau Kappa Epsilon, and Theta Chi. These are the traditional men's fraternities that you may typically hear about, and these are organizations that have typically been around for much longer than a lot of our other groups. These are the ones who kind of started earlier in the 1800s. The next council we have is the MGC, which stands for our Multicultural Greek Council, and each of the organizations that are within this council are founded underneath a different cultural focus. For instance, we have Chi Epsilon Sigma, which is a Latina sorority. We have Delta Phi Omega, which is a South Asian sorority. Kappa Phi Gamma, which is a South Asian sorority. Kappa Phi Lambda, which is a Asian sorority. Lambda Theta Alpha, which is a Latin sorority. Lambda Theta Phi, which is a Latin fraternity. Lambda Pi Chi, which is a Latin sorority. And Lambda Upsilon Lambda, which is a Latin fraternity. And Pi Delta Psi, which is an Asian fraternity. Again, each of these groups has a different cultural focus, but they are not bound by that cultural focus. Any individual who is interested in that group, no matter what their cultural background is, has the ability to join each of these groups, and they will welcome them with open arms. The next council we have is the National Panhellenic Council, which are our traditional African American fraternities and sororities. First, we have Alpha Kappa Alpha, then Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, Phi Beta Sigma, Sigma Gamma Rho, and Zeta Phi Beta. The majority of these groups were founded early in the 1900s and were founded majority at Howard University, which is actually located very close to where we are here. The next council we have is our Panhellenic groups, which are our sixth NPC sororities out of the 26 nationally recognized NPC sororities. The first we have there is Alpha Omicron Pi, then Alpha Phi, Alpha Z Delta, Chi Omega, Gamma Phi Beta, and Zeta Tau Alpha. For each of these councils, they have different focuses and also go through different processes for which individuals can go about joining these groups, which I will definitely cover later on when we get to how your son or daughter has joined or will join a fraternity sorority if they are interested. So the reason why our institution is so supportive of these groups and why they are of such benefit to our students is because they offer an experience that is unique to their membership. Many groups will have a singular focus covering only one of the following: scholarship, leadership, services or philanthropy, and social. But our fraternities and sororities offer all of these. They are truly a one-stop shop for a balanced experience that will enhance their lives as both a collegian and an alum. Scholarship is the first priority of all of our groups and can be found in the espoused values, mission statements, and creeds of all of our groups. Each of our chapters stresses the importance of academics to its members because they did not come here to join a fraternity and sorority but to get an education. And without that education, they are less of an asset to that national group. Nationally, when you look at fraternities and sororities, Greek men and women tend to perform better academically than those not in a fraternity or sorority. And we are very happy to say that here at Mason, we have seen a steady increase in our academics, and our Greek GPA is now the highest it's been in 5 years. Why? Our office and also our groups focus on scholarships through different things such as scholarships that encourage academics. They get peer support through study groups and mentoring and pairing with older members who may have similar majors or have previously taken that course. And then our office also does a number of academic programming where we host programs that focus on academic support and study skills, as well as do different things to recognize the academics of our groups through different awards. On our website, you can find the academic report for each of our chapters and the community as a whole as well. As a part of our Standards of Excellence program, which is our community recognition program and also the program by which they get recognized through our office, each of these chapters are required to maintain a 2.5 GPA every semester to be considered in good standing with our office. As I mentioned before, although we are only 7% or so of the undergraduate population, our Greeks are heavily involved in a number of different leadership roles within our community, like student government, patriot leaders, program board, Mason ambassadors, and honor societies such as our Order of Omega, which is comprised of the top 3% of our Greek population and is focused on scholarship and leadership. And then also our Fraternal Value Society, which is a new initiative through our office, just started last year, which is a group of students who have come together to help advance our community by bringing more of a focus to the values and true ideals of our fraternal community. Through each of these roles, these students have the opportunity to network and build their skill set through a variety of retreats that are often put on by different departments, such as our annual leadership retreat, the respective organization meetings, and different leadership courses that are offered through different departments. These students also get additional training and leadership from their respective national organizations through national meetings and leadership retreats. Another pillar of our Greek community is philanthropy and service. Each of our groups has a different philanthropic focus and also participates in a number of different service opportunities here on campus or within the Fairfax or even DC area. Each of these groups has a national philanthropy that their national organization has selected, and so they will host different events throughout the course of the year to raise funds to help support that national philanthropy. Some of our groups focus on topics such as cancer, breast cancer, AIDS, different disabilities, and so they raise funds to help support national organizations that do research to help work with those groups. We also have different community service initiatives throughout the area that our groups participate participate in. Um, Here as a community, each of our groups has participated in Shackathon, which is part of our Greek Week. And I will actually show you where you can find a video of that in just a second on our website. But through this event, as a part of Greek Week, during a 48-hour period, each of these groups will construct a makeshift structure on campus where they will actually have somebody housed in that facility during a certain period of time each of these 2 days. During that time, they will collect donations from the Mason community and also through other avenues by which they would collect donations. And this past year, we were actually able to raise just about $7,500, which we donated to Habitat for Humanity here at the local chapter. This is an event that we have done annually, and so we are proud to say that within the past 3 years, we've raised over $25,000 that we've been able to donate to Habitat for Humanity. During this event, they also collect different canned donations. And so this past year, we donated over 8,000 pounds of food to a local food bank, which is Food for Others. Another service initiative that we have as the office is our newly created Greek Alternative Spring Break experience. And so to continue our experience in working with Habitat for Humanity, we work with them through their Habitat for Humanity Collegiate Challenge. And so we went over to Atlantic Beach, North Carolina this year to help clear land for new houses that were going to be created and also construct a miniature house that they actually will auction off to help fund some of their building efforts down there. And so there you will see a picture of the group of students as well as myself that went on this trip. And not only did we just do service, but we had a lot of different conversations around what is the value of service and philanthropy, because we want to make sure that our students are fully understanding the true value of both of those. And each of these students did this during their spring break, so they chose to give up what normally may be an opportunity for them to rest and relax and recuperate before coming back to school. But instead, they chose to give their time back to the community. And so we are very proud to be able to offer that experience for our students here. So now we will talk about the social aspects of our groups, and I'm sure this is why you all hear more about than any other thing. Greeks are often portrayed as a crazed group of kids who drink and party a lot, but whereas I would be lying if I said things like this don't happen everywhere. Here at Mason, we stress and encourage that social events of our groups be done in a safe manner that is in accordance with the law, our student code of conduct, and each of these groups' national risk management policies. Social is an important and encouraged piece of the Greek experience, but is not the most important piece. Each of our groups socialize through a number of activities such as Greek Week, which I was recently just talking about, but that is a week of events that each of these students puts on and they participate in during that week. We have different sing and dance skit things going on. We have other opportunities for them to just socialize. We have a field night. We raise a lot of money for different philanthropies during that week. And it's mostly just an opportunity for these students to really come out and show the entire Mason community what they are capable of while still enjoying themselves and being able to socialize with people who may not necessarily be just within their chapters. Each of these groups also hosts different things such as mixers, formals, and date parties, where they may, host an event in collaboration with another fraternity or sorority, or it may just be an internal sisterhood or brotherhood event. Intramurals is also another big piece of our community that they like to participate in. Through our campus rec office, each of these students are able to participate in a number of different intramural events, ranging from football to indoor soccer. And they are all currently working on different ways to also recognize our students for their efforts within intramurals. And so each of our groups definitely appreciates and values the experience that they get to have through the intramural program here. A number of university programs, such as our monthly community building programs, also happen, which encourages our groups to come out and socialize with each other. As an office, we put on our Greek Week kickoff, which happens right before Greek Week, so it's an opportunity for the students to get excited about this new year's Greek Week events. We also have hosted our previously leap year luncheon, which was an opportunity for students to come out and just gather and have some food and interact. We just recently hosted a new member social for all of our newly initiated and also members who have just gone through recruitment. And then we are, in the next coming week, doing a faculty and staff appreciation luncheon where each of our students are inviting different faculty and staff from Mason to come out and interact with them, and also find out more about fraternity and sorority life. So this is just a way for us to recognize the support that we get throughout Mason from our different faculty and staff. So how do they join? I know many of you may have a number of different questions about how your son or daughter has joined or how your son or daughter could join one of our organizations. And so as I previously mentioned, each of our councils go through different processes, and each of our different groups have different requirements by which you can go about to actually join these groups. So what is recruitment, intake, and rush? Two of our councils participate in what is considered recruitment, and that term rush has been replaced by recruitment. Rush was an old term that now has more of a negative connotation to it, and so many of our national groups have moved from utilizing the term rush to utilizing the term recruitment, as they encourage our groups to actually go out and recruit members, as opposed to it being a one-sided where only people who are interested in our groups are rushing to join us. And so our Interfraternity Council and our Panhellenic Council do what is considered recruitment, and their largest recruitment events usually happen in the beginning of the fall semester. And so the Interfraternity Council just recently changed up their process, and so basically now they are doing a registration process for each of these groups. And so earlier on in the year, and hopefully during the summer also, there will be a link that will be available for any young men who are interested in joining an IFC fraternity to register for IFC recruitment. And so this will be an opportunity for them to go out and meet all of our chapters and participate in different events in order to get acquainted with that chapter, find out what their ideals are, what kind of programming they do, and what would be the benefit in joining that group. And so during that course of that recruitment week, they will go around and meet with different chapters and go to their different events. And then by the end of that, they will receive a bid from a fraternity, and they will either choose to accept or decline that bid. But just similar to that, but different in its own right, is Panhellenic's recruitment. Their recruitment is typically a little bit differently, is more differently structured than IFC recruitment, and so they go through a process that is considered formal recruitment. And so women will register for it. The fee usually is around $30 to register for recruitment, and they will come out to orientation on the first night and find out more about all of our six different women's fraternities and sororities. And so after orientation, they will, on the first night, go around and meet each of these six organizations and find out more about each of those groups. And then at the end of that day, they will make a selection. And basically, this will happen at each of the different nights. Formal recruitment utilizes a process that is called a mutual selection process, whereas the chapters are ranking and selecting the women, and the women who are going through recruitment are ranking and selecting the chapters as well. And so each day they will get invited back to a number of sororities, and basically each day they will find out more and more about that sorority, and that sorority will find out more and more about that young woman. And so by the end of this event, they will get a bid as well, and they can either choose to accept or decline that bid as well. So for any of you who may have had a son or daughter who has recently gone through recruitment but did not get a bid, there usually is a lingering question of why my son or daughter did not get a bid. There are a number of different reasons why your son or daughter could not have gotten a bid, and usually is because that person may not match well with that organization, or their GPA or other things were not up to that organization's standard. This does not mean that they don't have the opportunity to go out and try again for recruitment or joining these organizations, but at that point in time, they did not meet the standards by which that organization was willing to accept them. In this case, there are a number of different opportunities available on this campus, and so just because your son or daughter was not able to join a fraternity or sorority, or may have just themselves decided to remove themselves from the process because they felt like they were not connecting with any of these groups, they can definitely get involved in a number of different opportunities through our office within student involvement, because we have over 300 different recognized student organizations, which will also provide them with an opportunity to help develop their leadership skills, which will make them more of a valuable candidate for any of our fraternities and sororities. So the next question we'll go back to intake. Intake is an activity that is put on by our National Panhellenic Council and also our Multicultural Greek Council. These processes are a little bit more secretive as the members are not usually announced until after they have been inducted, whereas Panhellenic and IFC will announce their new members as soon as they are selected. During intake, each of these groups train and educate these young members on the history and ideals of those organizations, and also provide them with different leadership skills that will give them the ability to help run and function as an individual within that organization. And so that process is differently from IFC and Panhellenic because they also typically do not take first semester freshmen and require a certain amount of GPA and also a certain GPA as well as a certain number of credits in order to actually go through the intake process. So once your son or daughter has gone through the intake process or the recruitment process and is starting that new member period, they will have to pay what is considered a initiation fee or new member dues. And so what this is basically, you can kind of think of it as how you pay for a gym membership. You pay to utilize all the resources that are available within that gym, and that is similarly to how this works for each of our groups. They pay this money to help that organization and the national organization function because it helps support the chapter's local programming as well as the national organization's programming and resources that are provided to these groups. And so through these dues, each of these students are able to experience different experiences through these chapters, and the money that they pay definitely does come back to them in that way. For many of our fraternity and sorority women who are initially expressing their interest in joining one of our groups, there's sometimes this concern of how can I afford, paying these dues because for some, they can be a little larger than others. And so what we always encourage our students to do is to never let the financial piece be a reason that they will not join one of our groups. Each of our groups has different scholarships that are available as well as different payment plans that are available to help each of these students be able to maintain their membership and then also cover those dues. And so here in this area, we have a number of our students who also work and hold jobs, but then also utilize a lot of these scholarships and payment plans as well. And so it is completely doable, and many of our students do so. So going on again to the new member period, like I said, this is a period by which each of these groups will train and educate the member on the history and traditions of that organization, as well as provide them with that leadership development to help them function within that group. But during this period in time, this is typically where you would see hazing occur. And so here at Mason and at all universities and institutions, and for each of these national organizations, we have a no hazing, zero tolerance policy in regards to hazing. It is not tolerated or accepted, and it is not encouraged within any of our groups. And so if you or your son or daughter feels like they are being hazed or they feel uncomfortable, we definitely encourage you to either send them to us or you yourself call us so that we can address the situation and do a full investigation. The health and safety of your son or daughter is what is most important to us, and so this new member period should always be free of hazing as well as alcohol. So why is it a secret? Some of you may have asked your son or daughter about their experience, and they, may have said that they're unable to tell you about certain things. And the majority of what they are going through is not a secret. The actual new member period is not a secret. The only pieces of the new member period that are secret is the ritual. But the reason why there's such secrecy around our organizations is because of how we were founded. As I stated before, the majority of our groups met in secret because these congregations were not allowed. And so they created different things such as different passwords and handshakes and different rituals that were only privy to the members of that organization. And that's how you were able to tell if somebody was actually affiliated with your group or not. And so the ritual basically is a ceremony that each of these groups will go through. Some groups will have multiple ceremonies that they will go through during their new member period. But this is basically the ceremony that will fully induct them into the organization and express to them the ideals of their organization, and they will then usually take an oath to that organization to live up to those ideals. And so for each of our groups, we ask our members to live to a higher standard. And so that means focusing on our academics and being involved in our groups and giving back to our community. Those are the kind of things that are stressed within a ritual. And just like you have your daily ritual of, waking up and brushing your teeth, this ritual should be a daily reminder for each of our students to live to a higher standard as well. So, how can you as a parent be more involved in your students' experience? As an office and university, we definitely encourage you to make sure you ask questions. Um, you really can't know what it is your son or daughter is doing if you're not asking them what it is that they're doing. We encourage you to really reach out to them, ask them more questions about what it is they're doing within a new member process, what the chapter is doing, what kind of programming they're putting on. But then also to research the fraternity and sorority that your son or daughter may be in. Each of them have different national websites that are available, and so you can go to each of those websites to find out exactly what that organization is about. You can find out the history and where they were founded, what kind of national programs they have available, if they have scholarships that are available. And so we definitely encourage you to check out their websites and then also those governing body websites that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. We also definitely encourage you to attend their events. Each of these groups may or may not have a parent group, so we definitely encourage you to reach out to your son or daughter to ask them about that. But if they don't, they still sometimes will host different events that will encourage the members to bring back their different families. Many times this happens during our family weekend, which is actually during October 12th through 14th, and that their website is masonfamily.gmu.edu, and this is actually put on by our Office of Family Programs and Services. So I'll do a little shameless plug for them there. So definitely we encourage you, if you are able to attend these events, come out to these events because this is the best way for you to really get educated on what your son or daughter is doing and what kind of experience they're having through each of these chapters. So lastly, the piece we want to talk about, just to make sure that you're aware of what is available, is risk management. As an office in a university, we do not support any risky behavior from our groups. And so if you are ever concerned about your son or daughter, ask them about what's going on and do not hesitate to contact us or encourage them to themselves. Any allegations of misconduct, whether hazing or other, is investigated by our Office of Student Conduct and dealt with accordingly. Reports can even be made online, which I can show you also via our website, through the Office of Student Conduct website. In an effort to curb any misconduct, we as advisors are also continually working with our groups to understand how they can best manage their risks, or, for example, during our new member education programs that are offered each semester to newly recruited and initiated members, we talk about topics such as ethical decision making, hazing, as well as host workshops from our alcohol, drug, and health education department, and also our sexual assault services. Your son and daughter's health really is, once again, our number one priority. And so we take every opportunity to make sure we are educating them on how to make smart and safe choices. And so what I'm going to do now is walk you over to our website just to show you a few different resources. So this is our student involvement website. And this has a number of different resources that are available. And basically, this is kind of a hub for involvement for our students. You will find information on here about registered student organizations, student government, all of our campus programming initiatives, and also our class councils. But at the top here, you will see fraternity and sorority life. And so if you click there, this gives a brief description of Greek life here at Mason. And on the left, you will see links on how to join, information about each of our councils and chapters, recognition and programming, different forms and resources, frequently asked questions, and then also our contact info. Down here below, you will see the Greek Week Shackathon video from 2011. So I definitely highly encourage you to check out that video where you will hear from our students about their experience during that event that I talked about that goes on at the beginning of Greek Week. One thing I want to point out to you as well is If you go to Forms and Resources, there you will see our community contact sheet, so you can find the contact information for the chapter presidents for each of our groups. But then also down below, we have each of those grade reports I talked about earlier. So if your son or daughter has recently joined a group or is thinking about joining a group, you can see there what their GPA is as a group as well. Next, I just want to show you our student conduct website, just so you know where your son or daughter can go. So through our student conduct website, which is studentconduct.gmu.edu, as I said before, there is an online page where they can actually go to report any incident, such as if there was a hastening incident or you yourself wanted to make a report as well. So you would just go to this website and they have an online form where you can actually do a submission of any kind of incident report. So here is our fraternity and sorority contact information, as well as our social media contacts as well. Once again, you can feel free to go to our website. We are actually currently working on revamping our website and adding a lot of additional content, so you will soon see a parent section which will offer a lot of different resources as well as answer a few different frequently asked questions. And so that is available through si.mason.edu/GreekLife. And we are located on campus here in the hub, formerly known as Sub 2. And if you need to contact us, you can call us at 703-993-2909. Again, we also utilize social media to announce different events and also highlight some of our community efforts. And so you can find us on Facebook at Mason Fraternity and Sorority Life, or you can follow us on Twitter at Mason Greeks. So I just want to thank you all for your time in listening to our content here. I'm going to turn it over really quickly, but we'll be staying on after to answer any questions that you may have.
So thanks to Alan for providing us with that great information. For those of you that may have tuned in midway through the webinar, my name is Caitlin Euler, and I'm the Assistant Director for Family Programs and Services here within the Office of Orientation and Family Programs. Just a reminder, our next webinar will be hosted on November 7th, so you'll see the reminder on your screen at noon Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be featuring the Mason Police Department, and they'll be speaking about some of the campus safety initiatives and the annual campus security report that just came out last week. So be sure to mark your calendars for November 7th at noon. As Alan mentioned, we will remain here if there are any questions that you all have that you'd like to chat using the feature on the left side of your screen. So I will disable the microphone and the camera, but we will still be here answering any questions, anything follow-up from what Alan presented on, or anything additional that you would like to know about fraternity and sorority life. We will be here for the next few minutes answering any of those questions. So thanks again for tuning in, and we hope to see you back again in November.